Hi, welcome to another episode of the still not titled podcast by NOTSTEAM Productions. Even I'm getting a bit tired of saying it now. Although we are working on that. I am in the middle of editing the podcast where we sort of talk about what we're going to call it. My name's Grimshaw, and I'm joined, as always, by
Liam Davies. Hi, guys.
How are you doing today, Liam?
Or this weekend. Yeah, well, it's a lovely Sunday afternoon.
It is rather lovely today. It's quite blue outside. It's not pissing it down, which is always a change in Britain.
Not too warm either. It's been quite warm recently, but it's a nice temperature. Like, I'm sat with a hoodie on, and I'm quite chill.
Yeah, so you've kind of gone off the idea of calling our podcast "The Two Sweaty Boys," then.
Well, yeah, I think that only applies at certain times of the year.
Yeah, maybe that could be our summer special.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, we could have a like a summer segment where we're just sweaty for 3 months.
So, usual start. What have you been playing? What have you been watching?
Well, in terms of playing, I haven't been playing anything other than that dungeon game I told you about, the sort of XCOM fantasy one, the Dungeon of Nahelbuk. It's not a good title. In fact, that's not the full title. It's the Dungeon of Nahelbuk, the Amulet of Chaos Chicken Edition.
Oh, okay. Do you play as a chicken?
No, but there are chickens in it, like sort of XCOM style. And say instead of attacking a person, you could attack a chicken coop, and when you do, it releases chickens that just attack the nearest like enemies or friends. You know, it can actually be quite useful to distract some enemies in a fight. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. Like all the systems, the way that the combat works, quite different to XCOM, because obviously a lot of it's like swords and magic and stuff. But yeah, no, it's keeping me entertained for now. But I have just downloaded the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Oh yeah, is that it's very arcadey, that isn't it?
Yeah, it's very like Streets of Rage style.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's had good reviews. Yeah, it's had good reviews, and it looks good. And it's on Game Pass, so it's not cost me anything. So
yeah, always sweet. It's always better when it's free.
Well, I am paying a subscription monthly, but yeah, it feels free. It feels free.
Yeah, but if you work out how much you pay a month to compare to the amount of sort of games that you get, it's exponential. So I always download the PS4, the PlayStation Plus games, even if they're not something I would personally play, just to get my money's worth. So like some months it's like you get like 90 quid's worth of free games. That you're just like, I'll probably never play this, but it's nice to just have it in my library.
Yeah, I'm the same on my PlayStation. I've got a huge library of the PlayStation Plus games from the last, I don't know, 7 years, probably.
Something like that.
It's always 2 games a month at least, isn't it? Sometimes 3.
Yeah, sometimes it's 3. I think there's been the odd time where there's been maybe like 4. Some months it's really good.
It is a bit hit and miss. There's some months where it really misses the mark, and you think, what?
Yeah, like there was a couple of months back, there was it was like a rally game, a golfing game, and then there was just like some shitty like indie game that I like played for about 5 minutes and was like, nah, I'm over this already. I've not really been, I'm in the same boat. I've not really been playing anything new. However, I have been going through my library and having a look at like sort of my older games and stuff. One thing that I do want to mention is I've had a quick go at Dead by Daylight recently, which is an online sort of multiplayer game where one of you plays as a sort of hack and slash killer. So, your typical sort of like Jason Voorhees.
Freddy Krueger, is he in it?
You can download DLC. The only character that I haven't seen that you can get is Jason himself, only because Friday the 13th has its own game, which works in a very similar format.
Yeah, asymmetrical multiplayer thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I would argue that the Jason game, the Friday the 13th game, is a lot better than Dead by Daylight.
Right.
Only purely because it's easier to pick up and play. Dead by Daylight, I've tried playing as the Hunted, where you play as like a group of people, and you work in a team of 4 to try and sort of like navigate the area and escape. And I've also played as the Killer. Each of the killers has their own sort of move sets, like styles and stuff.
Yeah.
And some of them are almost impossible to play as. You would need like tons and tons of practice to get anywhere close to being able to like hunt down your targets. It is kind of fun in the sort of like co-op game. It is fun to play as a killer if you're sort of doing solo play. If you were playing as the people, I would recommend you play with a group of friends as opposed to on your own, because it's all about working together, and you'll know yourself that, you know, trying to play online with a group of people, if you don't have a mic or anything like that, it's almost impossible to sort of get anywhere. It is one that I recommend. You know, there are loads of DLC where you can like download some of your favorite horror characters. You can download Mike Myers, run around as Mike Myers. Freddy Krueger, I believe, is one of them. Leatherface, and like I say, they each have their own sort of like different style, like play style, that sort of adds to the game's sort of mechanics. But yeah, it's pretty good. It is one that I would recommend. It is relatively cheap, but then when you start looking at wanting to, like, say for example, if you have you know, a particular character you want to play as, that is going to cost you money to download it. You don't really get the option to like unlock stuff, as far as I can see.
What, by like progressing?
So you unlock like skins and like these like items that act as like perks or talismans kind of thing, but like you don't, as far as I can tell, I've not really played it enough to know, but as far as I can tell, you don't like download any additional, you don't unlock any additional characters or anything like that. Like if you look at say something like say Tekken or the Naruto fighting games, you know, you complete the story mode, and every chapter or every sort of like fight you complete, you unlock a new character to play as in sort of free mode. That doesn't really have this.
It feels a little bit like, it feels a little bit money grabby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of gaming companies are going that way.
Yeah, of course. But with those games as well, like they're not my cup of tea anyway. And when I've seen gameplay of them, I always think that they look a little janky, and you wouldn't call them AAA games. But you know, it's almost like that's the sort of price that they're charging if you do want the full roster of, you know, of killers that they have, and I imagine maps as well. That's probably, you probably get
So every character you download, so every DLC you get, so like say if you get the Freddy Krueger one, you get like additional maps. You get an additional map. So like one of them's Freddy's lair. So I don't know if you've seen the original film, but it's like an industrial looking sort of basement with loads of like fans and stuff. And you also get the survivor, like a survivor skin. So one of the ones that I'm kind of interested in getting, but I'm probably not going to, is there is one for Silent Hill, where you play as Pyramid Head. And by downloading that, you also unlock Heather Mason, who is the protagonist for Silent Hill 3, and also one of the main sort of plot points in Silent Hill 1.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's the thing. I suppose you can pick and choose, and I suppose you've got the option there if there is something that, you know, tickles your pickle, like old pyramid head boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, not for me, like I say. But that's probably just because I lack an affinity to the horror genre.
Yeah, which is probably why you're probably going to hate what I've also been watching. So I've been going on a bit of a horror binge lately. Don't know why, just springs to my mind every so often. And I've watched a lot of really shit horror movies as of late.
Yeah.
But there's one in particular that I've watched, which I want to sort of talk about, which is actually quite good's not the right word, but it's very interesting and it's got a it's very interesting sort of plot point. It's called Pontypool. It's set in Canada. It's by a Canadian production company. It's a very sort of indie title. And it's told from the perspective of a sort of like radio presenter and his sort of like team, like his producer and the sort of tech girl that help him out. And they're in this sort of like, I won't say isolated town because that's the sort of vibe that I got. It was like a town of, say, like 10,000 people.
Small town, yeah.
Small town, yeah. And it plays on the sort of zombie genre a little bit, but it's not necessarily like through being bitten or anything like that causes the infection. It's actually what you say. So it's a particular virus that when people are infected, they'll start repeating the same word over and over again. And then they'll start repeating what, like say if I was infected, if you started talking, I would just keep repeating what you say. And then eventually I'd go insane and try and eat your face off.
Oh, okay.
It is quite a decent film. There's Stephen Hattie in it, who, if I remember rightly, he was in. He's been in like a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. I think, if memory serves, he was in Heroes, the NBC TV show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember the character that he.
Oh.
Prison Break, and a few other TV shows such as that.
Right.
It is quite a sort of slow burner film. It's more for those that enjoy, a sort of like the sort of Hereditary style film, where a lot happens, but when stuff happens, it happens kind of thing. But it has also got some heavy sort of like B movie vibes as well.
Yeah.
I do love my B movies, so.
Yeah. So I probably will not be watching that.
Probably not, but
interesting as it sounds, yeah, probably not for me. I've just finished the last episode of the Breaking Bad spin-off.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul, and yeah, arguably a better finale than Breaking Bad was. It was, really, really something. I think, like, I was talking to someone about it the other day, and the amount of people that absolutely love Breaking Bad, that are like diehard fans of Breaking Bad, that I know anyway, that still haven't watched Better Call Saul. That's insane to me. Like, that's just, when it's this good as well, like one of the best TV shows ever made. That is insane to me. Like, what?
I will be completely honest, and I will say I am one of them. So I started watching, I think I watched up to the end of season 2, and then one reason or another just fell completely off it.
Yeah.
And I do keep meaning to pick it back up. I kind of wanted it to finish so that I could just binge it all at once.
Yeah. Well, the time has come, my friend.
The time has come. So I'll wait till I get Netflix again, and then I'll binge it all in one, and I will let you know. Because as much as Breaking Bad got a lot of shtick for its ending, I actually thought it was quite good.
Yeah, I quite like the Breaking Bad ending, yeah.
I thought that it had like, yeah, it possibly wasn't what a lot of people were expecting, but at the same time, it did show a sort of, it rounded off the story quite well.
Yeah.
You know, you had that the sort of final two episodes, which showed Walter going about his sort of goodbyes, you know, making sure that he sorted his family out, basically saving Jesse.
Yeah.
And
That's
like,
a great scene, that as well, with the machine gun mounted in the back of his car. That's so cool.
That was amazing. Like, you know, it was one of those that I kind of loved, the sort of way that he had sort of become a monster, but then in the last sort of few moments became more of a hero.
Yeah, he really dragged himself back a bit, wasn't he, from the brink?
Yeah, a bit of redemption.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, tell me a bit more about Better Call Saul. Don't go into spoiler territory because it is relatively fresh.
So without going to spoiler territory, so he obviously at the end of Breaking Bad, he's getting smuggled away by that vacuum cleaner guy. He has a vacuum cleaner shop, and he can smuggle people out to wherever. So there's sort of two timelines. So it shows the sort of the origins of Saul Goodman. We meet him as Jimmy McGill. That's who he was originally, I suppose. And we see how he progresses and changes into Saul Goodman. But there's the other timeline where it's sort of present day, for lack of a better phrase. He's been out in the sticks somewhere for a few years, and that's all in black and white. So there's a really good distinction between when you're looking at, and for the most time you don't actually see much of the present day, but then as it goes on you see a lot more, and then more stuff happens. And yeah, it's the finale of particularly the last season, really. There's so much that goes down, and I think touching on what you were saying then about Walter White getting to say his goodbyes to everyone, and then really rounding off those characters, like they do that probably better in Better Call Saul. Like all the characters in it really get, you know, their finale. You know, it's like we're like a fly on the wall watching these people. Like the writing's so good for the last two episodes as well, and it just rounds it off brilliantly. And it's kind of sad because it's finished now.
Finished.
Yeah. What do I do now?
I mean, just a quick question, because I would we've had the El Camino film, which was about Jesse, which I thought that was a really good film.
Yeah, quite good. Yeah. Again, that's giving him his goodbye. And
who else would you like to see a potential spin-off of in the sort of Breaking Bad world? Because I feel like there's maybe a couple of stories left.
I don't know. I think can they get much more out of it now? I don't know. I think it's done, to be honest. Although if you had to, maybe I like Mike Ehrmantraut.
Mike is one of mine. So I would like to see Mike sort of back in his sort of police days, because he tells that fantastic story in, I think it's the end of season 3, where it's Half Measure and Full Measure are the name of the episodes. And he says about how there was this abusive piece of shit that was beating his wife. He one day went over, tried to scare basically got into him and was like, look, you do anything to her, like, I will fucking kill you. He inevitably goes back to this lady's house, finds out that the guy had basically beat her to death. And he basically warns Walter that, I took a half measure when actually I should have taken a full measure. And I would love to see that, because Mike is a very complex character. He's a very well-written character because, all right, he is a criminal. That's not up for debate. He he's a hitman. He cleans up after other people's crimes and stuff like that. But he has a strong sense of morality. And
like he's a father, isn't he?
yeah, the bits where you see him with his granddaughter, and like the DEA are watching him, and he like leaves him a note saying "fuck off." You know, I would love to see his progression into, you know, the sort of gun for hire, from, you know, beat cop to.
Well, sorry, but they've kind of already done that.
Have they? All right, fair news.
Not so much the beat cop to, like, they don't go that far back. Like, I think that's probably what you'd have to do, but then that's not really in the Breaking Bad universe anymore. Sort of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you would be able to tie it in somehow. I don't know, the guy that plays Mike, Jonathan Banks.
You say so?
I think he's called Jonathan Banks. He was in the Gremlins movie.
Right.
He played a cop in that. Maybe it was the same cop. And then he saw the Gremlins and he was like, "Nah, fuck that. I'm going to crime."
Start taking bribes.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think you could probably tie it up, but you would then have to obviously set it back in the sort of like 70s, 60s, wherever it was that he was a beat cop. And like you say, at that point, is it really Breaking Bad?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more or less done. I can't see any other characters really that would, because it needs to be in Albuquerque. You know, that's sort of synonymous with Breaking Bad. You know.
Yeah, because if I remember rightly, Mike's from Boston or somewhere like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He's not from New Mexico. I know that.
No, yeah.
The other one that, and again, I'm sure you're going to tell me whether or not they've already done this, but
Right,
the other character that I would like to sort of see maybe a bit more of is Gus Fring. And see a little bit more, because obviously his origins are very mysterious in Breaking Bad. There's one particular scene where it shows him and his supposed partner, not just in business, meet up with, is it not Tuco? What's the uncle called? The one in the wheelchair.
Salamanca.
Hector Salamanca.
Hector Salamanca, yeah.
Where they meet, he meets him. Prior to that, I would love to see maybe a bit more of that. But again,
watch Better Call Saul.
Right. So basically, I just need to watch Better Call Saul.
Yeah, you need to watch Better Call Saul. Yeah.
Better.
They do really well with loads of that stuff, and yeah, it's awesome.
I will, like, to be fair, it is definitely on my watch list. And like I say, I did watch the first 2 seasons and I did enjoy what I watched. I don't know why I then just sort of fell off.
I think that's understandable because it is it's a much slower pace than Breaking Bad. Even though Breaking Bad wasn't particularly quick pace anyway. You know, it's much slower, much more methodical. Like a lot of the time, you don't actually know what Saul's up to. Like he'll have some scheme in the works, and you see him doing bits of it, and you can try and work it out, but you don't really know until they're doing it, and then it's So it's understandable to fall off because I think I fell off after series 3, and then caught up when I think series 4 had finished, and caught up then, and then I've been on it ever since. But yeah. Get that watched.
Definitely. It's definitely on my watch list.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we've been watching and that's what we've been playing, as always. So, quick question for you, Liam. Why, and insert level design here, are the fucking worst? That is the question that I pose to you.
Yeah, and for mine, it came straight to my mind. It's levels that take you away from the protagonist. And so I've got a few examples. So the first one that sprung to mind, which I've spoken about a little bit on the podcast already, is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
When it makes you play as Mary Jane or Miles Morales before he's got powers, all of that. We've spoken about that. So another one that came to mind, because it actually stopped. It made me come off my second playthrough of the game, which was Uncharted 4.
Oh, okay.
So even though you are technically still playing as Drake, there's a flashback section where you break into a house or something. And yeah, that just, when it got to that for the second time, I was like, yeah, I don't want this. I just want to be jumping around and punching people in the face and stuff, and yeah, there's that. And as well, Tomb Raider. I can't remember which one, but one of the most recent trilogy. There's exactly the same sort of thing. It's a flashback. You're playing as young Laura.
Yes.
Going around the house, trying to find stuff or whatever, trying to get in somewhere. Again, yeah, I was like, no, I want to be jumping around and shooting people in the face with the bow and arrow.
So that was in the Shadow of Tomb Raider, which was the most recent one. I've seen some rumors that they're working on a new reboot of Tomb Raider.
Apparently, and one of the rumors says that they're going to make all of the games canon.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and somehow have a Lara that's been on all of these adventures.
So she's going to be like, what, 1,000 years old or something?
Oh, I don't know how the hell they're going to do it. Like, she's going to be an old woman. Like, I don't get it.
To be fair, I mean, I liked the most recent two reboots. Well, the first one and the second one. I tried playing Shadow of Tomb Raider, and I couldn't get into it. I couldn't invest in it. But it does lead me on to my probably least. Oh, just before I get into mine, what about in, say, Last of Us, where you stop playing as Joel and you play as Ellie?
That is the exception to the rule, because I thought about this. I was like, no, that's the exception, because even though it does take you away from the main protagonist, she's still got skills and weapons, and she still plays very much like Joel does, only sneakier, So yeah, I'd say that's the exception, and I couldn't think of any more that were like that either. All the others that I could think of were where it makes you essentially play as like a less powerful version.
Yeah, it like nerfs you out, and you're sort of like left with barely any abilities and everything like that. Yeah, it is one of my sort of bugbears. Again, going back to Spider-Man, especially in Spider-Man, the bits where you played as, I mean, there were two pretty cool levels within it. So there was the one that we mentioned in the last podcast, I think it was, where you are as Mary Jane in the train station. Everybody's been taken hostage, and you've got this gadget where you can use it to basically make Spider-Man home in.
Yeah.
And there was also, as Miles Morales, there's the bit where you're being chased by the Rhino. I do like that bit just because of the sort of thrill factor of it, of being like, oh shit, gotta run away. But there was that bit in Norman Osborn's apartment where you've got to like sneak around whilst gathering evidence. And then there was the random bit at the beginning when you play as Miles Morales without powers, and you've got to get down this like street that's being sort of like cornered off by Silver Sable agents.
Yeah.
Which, I completely agree with. But Tomb Raider is a good example of one of mine that I dislike, and that is puzzle-based dungeons. Now, I don't hate them all. Now, there's one in particular that I really don't like, and it's in Skyrim, and they use puzzle-based dungeons quite a lot.
Yeah.
The most part is because, one, they're usually fucking too big, dark, and it's annoying as fuck, especially like with Skyrim, where there'll be like, say, a trap, like a door that you've got to get through. And in order to get through to that door, you've got to find a switch. And that switch will be like the smallest little pixel on your screen and you've got to find it. You've got to like navigate the entire thing, and usually they're a bit of a mess because they all look the same. So corridors start merging into one. So, you know, like for people like say me and you who, you know, we use gaming as a bit of a pastime, it breaks that sort of ability to just be able to turn something on, have like say 10, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe a full day of gaming, because you spend ages looking for this like one little item. And back to Skyrim, another thing that really fucking winds me up is when say you'll enter a dungeon and you'll be looking for like some sort of like key to get through to the next part of the dungeon.
Yeah.
Only to find out that there was somebody you had to go and speak to first. And you've got to like trek all the way back. And then by the time you trek all the way back, you're just a bit like, I can't be bothered now. Tomb Raider, the more recent reboot, had these optional sort of tombs, or dungeons.
It's weird, by the way. Like pretty much the only tombs in the game are optional, and it's called Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
that was kind of weird, and it kind of like because of the stakes and everything in that game, like it was weird to sort of step back from doing, you know, what was essentially saving the world to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go jump in this tomb and spend an hour in here.
Yeah.
Like,
don't get me wrong, some of the puzzles were kind of fun. Some of the you know ways that you had to do it, like there was a lot of it was like physics, weight based puzzles and stuff like that.
Yeah, like they weren't bad when you get in there to do them. It just sort of broke the feeling of the game slightly.
Yeah. And then
I want the next reboot to go back to the old style of Tomb Raider where it was really quiet and, you know, it wasn't an action game. It was like a quiet little jungle explorer almost, like with little puzzles and like platforming sections and stuff like that. Yeah,
the original Tomb Raiders had an almost survival horror style gameplay style.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like every bullet counted, you know, like you would pick up health packs and like, yeah, you'd come to a door and you'd have to find like a certain thing to unlock it, you know. So yeah, I do agree with you on that. I personally, with Tomb Raider, I would focus less on making it like an open world sort of, not that it is really open world, but it's
have very open sections, don't they?
Yeah,
that's sort of it messes with the feel.
It's got that sort of Arkham Asylum feel to it, where you know you're in this sort of like hub world and there's like different sort of levels branching off.
Yeah, and then you unlock new weapons or whatever to open a new route, something like that. Which I quite like that sort of approach to games. It sort of makes backtracking worth it. You know what I mean?
It does, but at the same time,
but it's got to fit the sort of the story and the setting. I don't think it really did that with the latest Tomb Raider game. It had all this urgency in the cutscenes and like the main story beats, but then you could just be like, oh no, I'm just going to go over here and do some hunting.
Yeah.
But, you know, it didn't quite fit. I thought if it was a bit more linear, I thought it would have benefited from that.
Well, that's it. Like, and one of the things that really pissed me off because the first one was great. The first one was really, really well paced, really well done. And then you had this like almost like mythological battle with the sun goddess at the end of the first game. And then the second game, whilst there was an element of mythology involved, you ended up, the final boss fight was basically a dude in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Which ruined the sort of, you know, I was expecting some big nasty to jump out and me have to like fight them off kind of thing. So yeah, I think that I'm not sure how I feel about the potential of another Tomb Raider reboot.
Yeah.
I'll have to wait and see what comes out of it, because the ones that they've sort of, the last few, whilst they've got some high moments, they've also got a lot of low moments.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, those are the levels that I hate.
yeah, same. I mean, there's probably quite a lot.
Yeah, there's more I could go into. Yeah.
I also hate the escort missions where you've got to like sort of escort somebody from
They're
one
all
end of the map to the other.
slower than you as well. Their walk is faster than your walk, but slower than your run.
Yeah, well, what always bugs me is when they'll like stop walking when you get like out of view.
Yeah,
And then, like
far away, or if you get in front of them. Oh God, yeah.
That's why we need intelligent AI, like in Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite, where they're always just to your side or just out of like your view, so that they're just there. And when they assist you by giving you ammo, that's what we need, more of that.
Well, yeah, the companions in Last of Us Part 2 are probably the best companions ever, because the developers were saying it's like their guns do just as much damage as your guns do. Yeah. So say if they're using a shotgun or a rifle, it'll do the same damage that yours will. Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. And they never get in your way. And you don't have to tell them to do stuff, they'll just do it. And if you're being sneaky, they'll be sneaky as well. It's good.
It is good. Definitely a lot better than the Bethesda mechanic system.
Oh, Jesus.
Bethesda companion system, which is
laughable.
Truly awful.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've had to restart a save because my companion's stuck in a doorway and therefore I can't progress.
Damn it, Lydia, get out of the way.
Yeah, basically. There's only one companion that I didn't straight up murder, and that was the vampire one, because she was patched. She was patched to have a better sort of AI pathing. Right. So she would actively step out your way where she could. Also interacts with everything as well. Researcher is just pointing out that Serena, the vampire companion, also will interact with everything in regards to like the smithing table, the alchemy table, and stuff like that. Whereas other companions will only interact with certain items.
Right. Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, until about 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, nice one, researcher. And so we move on to the next section.
Which, do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, I can do. So, well, you've labelled it 5 favourite movies.
Yes.
Now, I've not necessarily chosen my top. This isn't like my number 1 to 5 of favourite ever movies. I've just picked some films that I love.
Yeah, same.
And yes, I'll kick it off with my first pick, which is I went for The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay, it's a film that I've seen.
Yeah,
very good.
It's. I tried to mix up my list a little bit because I do like a good biopic or biopic, whatever they call it. I think that's a really good one because you have to sort of remind yourself so many times in the film, like throughout the film, that, oh my, this actually happened.
Yeah.
People actually did this. This is insane. Like when they're having parties in the office and someone's like, oh, like some woman will shave her head and give her 25 grand. Like, yeah. Like what?
Dwarf tossing.
Yeah, dwarf tossing and stuff. Oh God.
Is it Jordan Belmont? Was he called?
Belfort, I think. Belford.
Something like that, yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's great.
Yeah.
Do you know just a little bit trivia about that film? So Leonardo DiCaprio stated during the sort of like press release of that film that he's only ever truly been starstruck once whilst on set of a film. and it was when he met Joanna Lumley in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. So he basically said that he like loved her ever since he first saw Absolutely Fabulous. She's a huge humanitarian.
Who knew that Leo DiCaprio was an Ab Fab fan?
Yeah. She's very funny. So
Oh yeah.
somebody that I know, family friend, he went to basically a live show that she did, which was part book tour, part sort of
Right. Yeah. Like. Yeah.
and he said he was in stitches the entire time because of just how funny it was. But yeah, the only time he's ever truly been starstruck was when he met Joanna Lumley.
That's weird. He's worked with huge actors as well, and that's the only time. Wow.
Yeah. So one of mine, again, similar sort of makeup to yours. It's just 5 films that I love personally. Wouldn't really say that they are in my sort of top tier films.
Oh yeah, I'd say that. Yeah.
But they sort of mind fluctuate depending on my mood, depending on what I'm feeling at the time. Mine's a Korean film called Old Boy.
Oh, nice choice.
Very good choice. It's a very dark film, very disturbing film.
Yeah, very good.
It's best way to describe it. Guy, he's kidnapped off the street, locked away for 15 years, not told why. And then he's released after 15 years and given a fuckload of cash, new suit and everything, and told that he's got a week to find out why he was locked away, or his loved ones are going to start dying. And it's very much, I would say, on the same vein as films like Joker, on films like Seven, where it's almost like a psychological examination of a character, because you see this character go from, you feel sorry for him.
Well, he goes from a normal workaday dude, doesn't he? And then gets locked up for 15 years and doesn't know why.
Yeah. So he's very much, so at the beginning of the film, he's very much presented as a bit of a drunk idiot. The very opening scene is him in a police station, arguing with the police. Yeah. And that bit always makes me laugh. Now, I have to mention it because unfortunately it exists. There is an American remake.
There is, which as remakes go, it's not the worst one ever. It's not good by any stretch, and I would still always recommend people watch the original. But yeah, I would. Yeah,
I mean, it's got Josh Brolin in, and Josh Brolin does all right as it's called Joe, I believe, in the American version.
I think so. Yeah.
He's all right. It's got some pretty good moments. One thing that I do have to give it credit for is obviously there's a huge twist in Old Boy. One that I'm not going to spoil because it's
part
of the film.
Don't spoil it.
Now it was for the film, for that sort of like, as a most people that would watch it would probably be quite disturbed, horrified by the sort of twist. I was half expecting the American version to just completely do away with that twist. They actually don't. They actually went full hog with it and tried to sort of alter it slightly and like justify it a bit more. But as all in all, the Korean version by Park Chan-wook, miles better.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, it's a good film. There's good fight scenes, and
it has I don't know if it still holds the title for it, but there's a scene where you'll know it, where he's fighting with a hammer in a corridor.
Yeah,
it's the longest fight scene that was one continuous shot.
Yeah, that's a fantastic scene. In fact, there's a bit of an homage to that in Sifu. Like, there's a section where you like open a door and it's just a long corridor and there's loads of guys there, and they just sort of stand there and like got pipes and bats and stuff, and you're like, right, let's do this. It's like, oh, and yeah, it's so good.
That scene is just amazing. Even if you just watch it for that one scene, it's beautifully choreographed.
Yeah,
it's beautifully shot, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's very good.
What's your next film?
My next film. This is like a sort of formative Liam speaking. Like 11-year-old me, 11 or 12, absolutely loved The Matrix.
Okay.
And I still kind of do. I watched it not so long ago, and yeah, I love that film. And I suppose like this 2 and 3 are okay as well, but you've got to pick the first one.
The first one was genre defying.
Exactly, yeah. Like all the bullet time stuff, and just like speaking of good choreography, like the fight scenes in the original were great, you know, and particularly the one in the subway station at the end against Smith.
Yeah,
really, really good. Yeah, and just great choreography. And I think like world building as well, like the whole real world and the Matrix thing, and yeah, I think good cast. I think it's actually because I don't really rate Keanu Reeves as an actor. I think he's a good action dude. I don't think he's got particularly good acting chops.
I do fully agree with what you're saying. I personally, yeah, like Keanu Reeves, he's good when he's playing himself. He's good when he's sort of playing like, because I've seen him in a few things where he's like just playing himself, and he's like playing like a hammed up version of himself. Like he was in something I watched recently, and like somebody's like, "Oh, it's Keanu Reeves," and like they go up to him, and he's just like, "I'm not Keanu Reeves. I just look like him." He does it in this like really flat, monotone sort of delivery.
Yeah.
He is supposedly really nice guy.
Oh yeah, like that's great, but doesn't doesn't really.
Yeah, I fully agree. He's not.
But he's not that terrible that it ruins the film.
No, because I would not cast anybody else as John Wick.
No, exactly, yeah. And they nearly cast Will Smith as Neo.
Yeah, I believe so.
Apparently, he turned it down to do Wild Wild West.
Didn't he turn it down as well because he didn't understand the script?
Well, possibly, but he was also doing Wild Wild West, and he was a producer on that as well, so he had money in on Wild Wild West.
Which that wasn't a good film.
No, that was a god-awful film.
That was fucking terrible. I'm just going to quickly go to my research. Have you seen Wild Wild West? She's saying no.
Yeah, please don't. Don't do that to yourself.
She's not seen Matrix either.
Oh, do that. Watch that.
The first one, especially.
Especially the first one.
The other two, I'm not so keen on. Especially when it starts going into the whole like Jesus sort of metaphor thing. I'm just a bit like, nah.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, I love them. Apart from the new one, the fourth one, that's just.
Yeah, I've heard very mixed things about that film.
Well, I don't know why I did it to myself, because all the reviews that I'd read had given it like 3 or 4 out of 10, but I still watched it, and yeah, I really wish I hadn't. Oh, it was awful. It's awful.
So this leads me on to one of mine. And despite the fact that this film came out in, I believe, 1999, I didn't watch it until I was actually in college. Now, I'd seen clips of it, I'd seen bits of it, but weirdly enough, I read the book before I watched the film. And the film is Fight Club by David Fincher.
Great choice.
Read the book because I'm a massive fan of Chuck Palahniuk. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of his name, so I do apologize. He's a brilliant writer. He's one of the writers that basically inspired me to sort of go on and find my writing style. The book, and I'm one of those, I cannot tell you which one I prefer, because the book has got some extra bits in it that the film doesn't have.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
film is a much more concise piece of storytelling. And the casting of Edward Norton and Brad Pitt and Helena Bonham Carter, fantastic. It is just an all-round brilliant movie. I know it's one of those movies that everybody's like, oh, it's so good, you've got to watch it and stuff like that. But it actually is. It is a really well-filmed movie. It's got a lot of like funny scenes in it. It's got a lot of quite intense, almost horror-esque films. And you get to see Jared Leto get his face pummeled in, which is quite fun.
Yeah, that's true. And it's got Meatloaf with big juicy man tits.
Yeah, Robert Paulson, bitch tits.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Robert Paulson. We were talking about that the other day, actually. Me and Jay were talking about that to give you your proper title.
Yeah, I watched it not so long ago. Yeah, weird that you mentioned it. And yeah, I actually studied it at college. And there's like so many ways to interpret it. Like you can look at it as the emasculation of men and how they're having to resort to this sort of thing to regain that masculinity. There's also like there's a Starbucks coffee cup in every scene in the film, which obviously points to like an issue with capitalism and
rise against corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
Materialism.
Yeah, all that stuff. And I think the way they tackle that is just it's very subtle but done really well. And as well, obviously the final reveal that you sort of see coming a little bit, but that's a great reveal. And it's just a good ending as well.
Yeah, and a brilliant soundtrack.
Awesome.
Just Trent Reznor was the guy that did the soundtrack. Which David Fincher and Trent Reznor have worked together quite a lot on movies. He worked on Seven.
Yeah.
Which, the other episode we were talking about David Fincher as being one of my favorite directors. I forgot to mention that Seven, or to give it its proper name, SE7EN, which unfortunately does have Kevin Spacey in, which, despite what he did, I do still think that he is a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
And he is going to be mentioned again very shortly. Unfortunately, because he's in two of probably my favorite films. So, but yeah, what's your next?
My next one is Whiplash.
I didn't even fucking mention Whiplash.
The film about the drummer. So what's his name? Miles Teller. He's a jazz drummer in a top New York jazz music school. He's quite abhorrent teacher and composer. What's his name?
Brilliantly played. The teacher.
Yeah. Well, who's he played by?
He's played by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Fletch.
And
Is it something Fletch?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. But, he's probably my favorite character in anything ever.
Yeah, he's fucking fantastic.
I love his insults and the way he just peppers people and just doesn't stop, and he's just so offensive, and I love it. He's just such a breath of fresh air, and absolutely incredible. I think, did he win the Oscar for that? I
don't know. I'm pretty certain it won a few Oscars.
Yeah.
Which is quite surprising because I remember getting into a bit of a debate with my stepdad about it, because I recommended he watch it and then he watched it. And I was like, oh, what did you think? And he was like, oh, it just felt like Oscar bait to me. And I didn't get that. I didn't think it felt very Oscar baitery. Like, it felt very sort of avant-garde, sort of like artsy film. The kind of films where it's like, let's do something really mundane but make it spectacular. I didn't really get that sort of vibe, but Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it won, I think, at least 3 Oscars.
Yeah, about going. And yeah, and I like the ending, like that end scene for me, where when Miles Teller sort of takes back control. Oh, dude, that's just so good. He's like, I'll count you in. I love it.
Such a good film. I'm disappointed that I didn't include that on my list, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't because you've included it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Right,
I
my
recommend that
next
to
one.
anyone. Like, I'm a drummer as well, so I think that talks to me a little bit more. But I think, people who aren't drummers, people who aren't even musically inclined, will still get a kick out of that film.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's got some elements of like horror involved, which, like not horror in the sense that,
More psychological.
yeah, psychological study
Yeah.
of like,
Well, he's a boy, basically, isn't he?
yeah, well, there's a bit of a plot point where it looks at the sort of how far he's actually willing to push his students,
Yeah.
and sort of the sort of consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic movie.
There's that scene where they talk about some famous jazz drummer, and they were saying that some like saxophone player threw a cymbal at his head to make sure he didn't fuck up, or he'd made a mistake, so he threw a cymbal at his head, and then he didn't fuck up again, and that's when he went on to become this incredible drummer. So he's saying that people need that kick up the arse.
Is he called? He was called Birdie Summit.
Yeah, something like it's that whole thing in it around like you can only make diamonds from pressure.
Yeah.
So
and it is very because it came out sort of the same year as Foxcatcher, which was Steve Carell.
Yeah, the wrestling one.
Yes, is it wrestling?
I think so. If it's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it is wrestling. I've not seen it for a while. That was very similar. Obviously, Whiplash is a hell of a lot better. But Miles Teller did most of the drumming. Oh, in fact, I think he did all the drumming.
Yeah, he did it all. Yeah, he did it all.
Because
he already had. Yeah, he already had like a few years of lessons under his belt, and then basically just had like 12 months of like rigorous training and just like endless practice. And yeah, he did it all himself, and it's like, I can't tell you how impressive that is as well, because that's like serious top level drumming that he's doing there. It's
because there's a bit where obviously he's practicing that much that his like hands are pouring blood, and there's blood all over his drum kit, and some of the blood that was on his drum skins was actually his blood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It
wasn't just fake, which that's quite impressive. Going back to Leonardo DiCaprio in the infamous scene in Django Unchained, where he like smashes the skull open and then smears blood on what's she called?
Oh, Django's wife.
Yeah, Django's wife. He smears blood on her face. That was a mix of real blood and fake blood.
Yeah.
Which, when you see the actress's response, I think that was kind of genuine. But moving on to mine, and unfortunately, the second inclusion of Kevin Spacey in the last 10 minutes, Baby Driver.
Oh, that's a great choice, though. Yeah.
Now
and he's not in it that much.
He plays quite a crucial role.
He's sort of the antagonist, I suppose.
So it's from the maker of Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
The Cornetto trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and the
World's End.
World's End, which was pretty poor in comparison to the other two. One of the reasons why, there's multiple reasons why I love it. I think the cast is great, even Kevin Spacey. You've got John. Is it John Hamm?
Yeah, John Hamm's in it.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
You've got Jonathan, the guy that played Punisher.
Oh, John Berthnell.
Yeah, although he's only in it for a brief sort of stint. You've got Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Aaron Eggott, which, in all honesty, I don't really know what he's been in other than Baby Driver.
He's pretty good though. He plays the part pretty well.
He plays the role perfectly. Yeah. It's a brilliant soundtrack. Everything is intentionally done. So, like, some of the action sequences are done perfectly in time to music. Aaron Eggott himself actually tried to do majority of the driving himself.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright did sort of step in at a few points and said, no, like, we can't get enough insurance for certain scenes. It's a fun little movie. It's about a kid that, due to sort of previous mistakes that he made, he gets tied in with the wrong crowd, and has to basically act as a getaway driver for this criminal boss, who's played by Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
It's a series of different heists, though you don't really see much of the heists. You just see him acting as the getaway driver. And then eventually it coming to this big conclusion of a sort of huge showdown between two characters, one being Baby Driver, or Baby as he's called, and who I'm not going to name. But it's absolutely fantastic. It's so worth a watch. The best way I describe it is it's almost like a 90-minute music video because of the way that music is used within the film, not just.
For me, it's almost like an old school, like, throwback film, like, where it's just about car chases and a mysterious dude who just needs a bit of money. It's like very Steve McQueen, and I think we don't get enough of those anymore. Like, other than that, like, the only other one I can think of was Drive, that's been recent or semi-recently. That was with Ryan Gosling, and that's pretty good, but that turns a little bit more like shooty, more so than Baby Driver does. But some of the best car chase scenes in modern cinema. Absolutely.
And they use possibly one of my favorite pieces of music, just because of just how fun it is, which is a piece of music called Hocus Pocus by Focus. And it's right at the end. Well, not right at the end. When he's being chased on foot.
Yeah.
It's like that, like, weird sort of like down, 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 down. That bit. That's the song, like, beautifully. You don't even have to listen to it now. That's exactly how it sounds.
Yeah, thanks for that,
but that is an absolutely brilliant piece of music. And whenever Jay is sort of running late or in a rush, she'll put that music on just to make sure that she gets there on time. Not that she drives like Baby Driver. She does in GTA, although it tends to crash a lot more.
Fancy that. So yeah, cool. So my next one, one of my favorite comedies. Saw it first as a teenager and watched it again not so long ago, maybe a year or two ago, and it still holds up for me. And it's Superbad with Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, and then Fogel, whatever he's called, McLovin.
Oh, what is that guy called?
He's not really done a lot.
I think he sort of retired from acting after just being typecast.
Oh, I'll tell you what, he was in what's it called? Kick-Ass.
Oh yeah, he was. He played
like the bad guy, sort of, in Kick-Ass. Red Mist.
Red Mist, that was it. Yeah.
Oh, but then the second one is called The Motherfucker.
Yeah. Which they are good movies as well.
They are quite good, yeah. But Superbad, like, so it was written by Seth Rogen when he was 15,
Yeah,
and he like only got it made when he was like in his he was probably 25 or something when it got made. Obviously, he plays the one of the cops in it.
he does, and it Bill Hader is
Yeah,
the cop.
and then just everything about that film, like it's got almost like road trip vibes to it, because they're constantly on the move for the entire night. It's like, they go to this place to try and get some booze, and then he gets hit by a car, so then they go with this guy to a party, and then it's like one thing leads to another. It's like, they think he's getting arrested, so they run off, and it's just
So good.
so good. It's so quotable as well.
Yeah.
Like throughout my teenage years, it was just just one of the go-to films. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it in quite a long time, but it's one of those that is definitely like a late night comedy to watch, especially when you've had a couple of beers,
Oh yeah,
or anything else.
possibly.
And it's also a great one to sort of put on in the background when like you've got mates over or something like that. See, my last two are horror ones, but I'm actually going to switch one of them out for one of my favorite comedies that always makes me laugh. And it's 21 Jump Street.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
Remake of the TV show. I'm going to go with the first one in particular because the first one is better. Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum, Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
And quite a few other sort of
recognizable
people.
and stuff. Yeah,
it's just so funny, and again quotable. There's a brilliant scene where both Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, they inadvertently take some drugs that they're supposed to be investigating, and there's a sort of long sequence of them sort of slowly going through these different stages of tripping, and it's just so well written and it's so funny. I absolutely love those films. They were meant to be working on a sort of sequel to 22 Jump Street, which was going to be a crossover of the Jump Street series and Men in Black.
No, that'd be mad.
It would be mad. I don't know how it would work out.
I would watch that. I would watch that.
But I just think that movie, again, like Breaking Bad, like Superbad, it's just such a fun film that, if you're wanting some like a sort of easy comedy to watch, that's probably going to be up there, because it's just fucking funny.
Yeah, no, it's a good choice. Yeah, I think good shout, swapping it out from another horror, mix it up a little bit.
Well, I've got two horrors because I couldn't decide between the two, but I've made a decision. I've made a consecutive decision.
Good. Well, that brings me on to my last one then. One of my favourite movie makers, film directors, whatever you want to call them, Guy Ritchie. One of his earlier ones as well, Snatch.
Oh, again, a brilliant movie.
Yeah, absolutely love the film. I love all of his stuff. I was kind of split between that and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. But I think the Snatch just takes it for me. And I think the reason being is that he's featured quite a bit in our thing so far. But Brad Pitt, and there's a whole that I saw an interview about it saying that they only had him for a very short period of time. Like they had him for like 2 days or something to film everything they needed. And at first they were going to have him have like sort of an English accent, but couldn't really grasp it in time. So they're like, well, how about Irish? Like, can you give us like sort of a completely inaudible Irish-ish sound? And he's like, yeah, sure, yeah. and then when you watch the film and you like the guy needs subtitles, but he's so good, like you absolutely believe that he's a an Irish gypsy, bare knuckle boxer. It's absolutely believable, and oh yeah, love those films.
Jason Statham, he's in it. The guy from This Is England.
Oh yeah, Stephen Graham. He's like
Graham. That's yeah.
Yeah, he's right hand man.
He's like his sort of wingman in it.
Yeah.
Such a fantastic film. And Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones is in it. That one as well. He is. Yeah. There's a great scene with him actually in the pub. The two guys they've pulled guns to him. Pulled guns out on him, and he goes into this big big monologue about how they've got little guns that have like replica written on the side, and then he pulls his Desert Eagle out and he says, "Mine says Desert Eagle 5.0," and just plops it on the table. And these two guys are like, "Oh shit!" Start running out. And if I remember right, he shoots one of them through the wall. Just as they're running, he just blasts a few through the wall and gets him through the wall. You're like,
it's not the character, as far as I'm aware, it's not the character that pulls the gun out on him. They get away. It's I think driver tank.
Oh right, yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah, yeah. And some great characters in it, like Boris the Blade.
Boris the Blade,
the Russian that just can't be killed. Like, absolutely brilliant. Oh yeah. What's the gangster called?
Bricktop.
Bricktop, yeah. Bricktop Harry, is it something like that? Yeah, Bricktop. Oh god, just a despicable person. And
some of my favourite lines that have ever been uttered have been in that film. One of the classic ones. Why would I want to buy a caravan with no fucking wheels? And then the words of the Virgin Mary, "Come again."
Yeah,
just brilliant. Just sticking with Guy Ritchie for 2 seconds. So me and Jay watched as you know, we've got Disney Plus at the moment, and I'm one of those, I'll watch anything just to sort of see what I think of it. And we watched the remake of Aladdin. Did not know that's a Guy Ritchie film.
What is it, live action?
Yeah, live action Aladdin movie, directed by Guy Ritchie. Is it worth watching? No.
Is it musical?
Yeah.
What, they burst out into song and dance?
Yeah, it's
not. Yeah, it's not for me.
No, it's not really for me, but I just thought, we were looking for something to watch. It came up and we were like, we'll put it on. And then obviously as soon as it said Guy Ritchie, I was like, oh. Yeah.
Strange.
It's not worth watching. I mean, if you're a huge fan of the sort of Disney sort of remakes and stuff, it doesn't add anything. Will Smith plays the genie. Whilst he has some sort of funny lines and stuff, he's not even a patch on Robin Williams.
It's a hard one to live up to, isn't it?
Exactly. And I said when we were watching it, if I was going to cast anyone, it probably would have been Jack Black.
Oh yeah,
good
idea.
Because I feel like he's got that high energy that you can have, where he could play the genie really well, if you were going to do a live action version. But
Sure. Yeah, so we're on to your last one then, aren't we?
We're on to my last one, which is a horror film. It is possibly one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and it's the 1972 version of The Thing by John Carpenter with Kurt Russell.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I must admit, I've never seen it.
It's an amazing movie. One of the reasons why it's such a good movie is because it predominantly uses practical effects. The film itself, it's very sort of intense. So just to give you a little bit of the background as to what it's about a bunch of researchers off in the sort of like Arctic Circle, and they come across the body of, I think it's a dog that's like frozen. They take it back to their sort of research center, and then they start to realize that there's something else in the research center with them that can take on the form of any of them. It very much inspired a lot of future horror movies in that sort of sense of nothing can be trusted.
Yeah. Like shapeshifter stuff.
Yeah, like there's some brilliant scenes where there's a really, really, really good scene where they figured out that the alien, the thing, is allergic to heat. It doesn't like heat at all. And the parasite, the alien, even the smallest amount of it, like say a pinprick of blood, even that has its own sentience and can react depending on like what like is around it.
Yeah.
So there's this brilliant scene where there's like two guys that know they're not infected. Can't quite remember how they know they're not infected, but they know they're not infected. And so they go around and there's like they're all stood in a line and they're like testing each one of their blood with like a hot knife. And before it gets to the reveal of who it is, some shit goes down, and then they're like, "Oh fuck!" And it just ends brilliantly with the sort of last remaining few sort of huddled together, and there's still this element of I don't know if I can trust you, even right to the end. It inspired the widely successful online game Among Us, which, you know, heavily inspired by The Thing. Brilliant, brilliant movie. They did do a remake of it, which...
Yeah, went the way remakes did it.
It lost a lot of its charm. Now, you know, one of the things that I really dislike in horror movies is when they start using CGI. I feel like with horror movies, you should always try and focus on practical effects. Or if you are going to use CGI, use it as sparingly as possible. Because the moment you see that rubbery sort of computer generated image, and you know for a fact that it's not real. Sorry, we've just had someone push through the door. Like the moment you see that like CGI computer rubbery texture, it just stops being scary. My research is destroying our sort of recording space. Stop it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic movie. It's one I highly recommend. Came out in 1972, but it's one of those films that if you put a HD gloss on it and re-released it now, you wouldn't be able to tell that. Well, obviously, because actors like Kurt Russell, looking a lot younger. Other than that, you really wouldn't be able to tell that it's an old film.
Cool. Yeah, well, I must put it on my list really because it is a classic, and yeah, you've got to keep the classics, haven't you?
It's one of those because I know you are not the biggest fan of horror. It's not like it's not a horror.
If it's more psychological, then I can get on board.
Yeah, well, it's more of a sci-fi horror. It's more of that like Alien, like
that's more my speed. Yeah,
sort of thing. It's not like your sort of Hereditary or your Paranormal Activities and stuff like that. It's a very old school horror, and it's based on a book called Who Goes There by H.G. Wells, who wrote back in the 1800s.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I've read the book. The book is really good.
Movie's done. Nice. So, I started on the last one. You can start on the next section.
Well, yeah, because the next section, as far as I'm aware, is my Noceboverse plug. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's always our favorite time, and then I think we'll. So yeah, my Noceboverse plug. So Liam, have you ever wanted to get involved with a ongoing mystery where you've got to help the writer piece everything together?
Well, I've never thought about it until now, but perhaps.
Well, think about it, and then why not check out my Nocebo-verse? So, in particular, there's a story out there at the moment floating around on my little Patreon called Hotel Pedita. Now, Hotel Pedita tells the story of a sort of unnamed protagonist venturing through a very creepy looking hotel. And every room he goes in, there is a character that he speaks with. When he speaks with said character, he always ends it on the line of "You're not the one," and then moves on. It's heavily inspired by a lot of the classic horror movies. It is a sort of psychological horror that I tried to write. And it's one that is very crucial to the core mechanics of my Nocebo-verse. And it is something that I highly recommend that anybody that's interested in horror, anybody that is interested in dark fantasy, give it a read, because I worked really hard on making it almost loop round. So it begins where it ends and it ends where it begins. And it's called Hotel Pedita. I'll include a link at the bottom of this, whatever this is. And yeah, check it out.
Yeah, sweet. Well done.
Thank you.
What a good plug. Well done.
Thank you. I'm just going to take a quick break and we'll get straight into the action. And we're back.
Hello.
So, I know I've asked you this question before, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. So, let's imagine that you're in a zombie apocalypse, okay? I know you've played Left 4 Dead, the video game by Valve.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so it's yourself and 3 other guys or girls, whatever. Doesn't even have to be human if it doesn't want. 3 other video game characters that you would take with you into the zombie apocalypse. And what weapons are you arming yourself with? Now, these weapons can be from any game series. It can be from any sort of franchise. Doesn't even have to be a realistic weapon. Whatever weapon you want. What are you arming yourself with? And who are the 3 people that you are taking with you?
So, well, if we're going up against, a horde of zombies, like Left 4 Dead style, then the first one I wanted in my team was Cal Kestis. That's the main protagonist from the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game.
Oh, yeah. That's a good show.
Yeah, because I think, he's got lightsabers that are just going to turn the zombies into little zombie parts. And, of course, the Force. Like, nice little Force push, send a few of them back. I think and he's quite sprightly and quick. I think he'd be good at protecting me. Yeah. That's sort of how I've gone at this. It's like, who will look after me the best?
It's very smart move. That's a good shout. Like using some sort of like force ability to be able to like push them away. I like that. So who's your next person?
Next one, I've gone for Doom Guy. Because, come on, who's going to do better at taking out hordes and hordes of zombies than Doom Guy?
Yeah.
He'll be well at keeping me safe. He'll be like bouncing around in the arena, like taking a lot of the sort of major heat from like most of the zombies. But it's nothing to him. He wouldn't even need a gun. He could just use his
bare hand chainsaw.
Chainsaw thing. Yeah, he'd be fine.
He's pretty adept with dealing with hordes.
Yeah, and he's got some experience. Like the sort of like there's some zombie-ish like enemy types that he's already ripped through thousands of. So this is just another Tuesday for him.
Yeah. That's also a solid shout. I mean, if Doom Guy can't keep you safe, no one can.
Well, if this next guy can't keep me safe, then yeah, there's no hope. To keep him with the idea of protecting me, I've gone for the character Jesus Christ from the game I Am Jesus Christ. So there's, if you didn't know, it's essentially a Jesus Christ simulator available on Steam. It's a first-person game where he like performs miracles and heals people.
Okay.
So he's basically my healer. So he'll look after me, look after Doomguy, look after Cal.
I'm technically the first zombie.
Well, yeah, exactly. And didn't he bring people back from the dead in one of the stories? I'm sure he brought someone.
I don't know.
The Bible stories, but
he rose from the dead after 3 days. I think
there's another story. But yeah,
I just think the whole crucifixion is a metaphor for Jesus going out on the lash and then having a 3-day hangover. So, the guy could turn fucking water into wine. He was getting pissed 24/7. Could you imagine going for like drinks with Jesus? It'd be the cheapest night out ever. Just going in being like, oh, 4 tap waters, please. Come back. He's got 4 pints of wine, mega pints, like mega John. Pints. Like, I'm not a religious person, as you could probably fucking tell. But that would be an awesome ability. If Jesus is real, do that.
Well, that's it. And like, say if once we've dealt with the horde, we get to a safe room or whatever.
Go to the Winchester.
Yeah, with like Jesus, put out some food and drink, will you?
Yeah, because there's the thing where he turned bread into town and he got
bread. What was it? 5 loaves of bread and like 3 fish or something, and he fed 5,000 people. You're like, yeah, come on, man, that's pretty good.
That would have been a really disappointing meal, though, wouldn't it? Like a crumb and a scale.
Well, everybody ate enough. Put it back into the bucket, passed it along.
Do you remember that film that we both talked about? I don't know if we ever did it on the podcast. The Platform.
Oh yeah, I think we did. Discuss it.
We talked about it. Was it on the very first one? So we have to go back, researcher, listen to the podcast and verify whether or not we did.
Yeah, that was.
Maybe it's one of those scenarios. So if like the first 10 people ate like fucking kings, and then by the end of it, and Jesus was one of them people, by the way, and then
they had enough left. But that was it. Like they went round afterwards and collected like the leftovers, and there were like 5 buckets of leftovers.
What, in the Jesus story?
Yeah, in the fable. Yeah.
What he did is he just got them all pissed, so they didn't care about food, and then just fucked off with the food. Possibly.
Again, we don't know. But what I do know is that he's going to have my back against these zombies.
Sorry, can you tell me more about the I Am Jesus Christ game?
Yeah, so it's the chronicling of Jesus Christ.
I'm looking this up.
Yeah, have a quick Google of it. Yeah, it's called I Am Jesus Christ.
I Am Jesus.
It's first person. It's a bit, it's an indie game available on Steam. And yeah, you go around performing miracles and gathering believers and the like. Is
it like a serious Christian sort of like?
No, I think it's a bit of a parody, which might anger a lot of people. But
no more than the last 5 minutes of everything I've just said.
Yeah, I don't think it's been made to offend. I think it's just been made to entertain.
Just a quick shout out back to sort of my Nasibo verse. Sorry, just because this has made me laugh. Do you remember me sending you the short 7 Minutes in Heaven?
Potentially. You have to remind me.
It's about a girl meeting God and bitterly disappointed by her sort of reaction. Well, I've tried to send that to a few Christian people over Twitter, just to sort of get their feedback. So far, nobody's responded to me, although some of them have probably read it. But yeah, so I mean, I'm looking at it now. Like, yeah, it kind of does look a bit parody-esque, but at the same time, it does also look like it could be genuine.
Oh yeah, I think somebody's genuinely tried to sort of chronicle his life in a video game.
That
Yeah,
I've just come across the Pope Simulator.
nice.
Right, we need to try and find that game. One of us needs to try and find that game and play it. And we need to try and play. I need to try and play Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be on Steam.
So he can heal you up, he can feed you, he can get you pissed. He's got a couple of.
I'm sure he'd be able to do some buffs as well, like maybe make us stronger or whatever. I'm sure he'd be able to do something like that.
Well, think about it logically. Like Doom Guy is already Jesus.
How?
He fights
Where's the
like
logic?
he fights demons like Jesus does every day.
Well, not exactly like Jesus does. Jesus doesn't do it with.
All right, he's the metal version of Jesus.
Yeah, that's probably closer. Yeah.
And who was your second pick? Oh no, your first pick was the kid from Star Wars.
Yeah, Cal Kestis.
Cal Kestis. Yeah, I feel like you're pretty safe.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Oh, I've not even told you my weapon. So my weapon.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's one of those. I don't know if you can class it as a weapon, but it's like an armored Humvee with a minigun on top. So I'm just stood at the minigun bit. I've got my 3 guys protecting me, and I'm just mowing down all these guys with a minigun. That's how a minigun sounds. Oh, and of course, if I want to, I can just like get into the driver's seat and drive off, or get my crew in, and we'll go find the next horde.
Your tactic in this zombie horde is annihilation of the zombies.
Oh yeah. I think when you've got those three back, I think you owe it to humanity to try and rid the world of the zombie plague.
So so my choice.
Yeah, go on.
I'm just going to throw the first one out. Is also Doom Guy.
Okay, yeah. No, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is a bit of a no-brainer. First person I put down was Doom Guy. Purely because of the fact that the guy has a chainsaw, he has railgun, he has the big fucking gun, which I mentioned to you in the call about this podcast.
He's got the super shotgun.
He's got a super shotgun. He's got like
grappling hook thing,
grappling hook, flamethrower. Now, one thing that I do want to point out about Doom Guy, right? Now, zombie apocalypse, yeah, like hypothetically, because it is a zombie apocalypse, if Doom Guy gets bit, he's becoming a zombie.
Yeah, I suppose.
And he's going to be coming for you. Now, I would argue that in Left 4 Dead logic is one of the specials, the sort of like heavy zombies that's going to come after you. So you're going to have like zombified super soldiers like Doom Guy that are then going to be coming after you with their own like arsenal and abilities.
I'd like Cal, sort him out.
So Cal would also be any of like these potentially bit and would come after you. So my second choice is Delta from Bioshock.
A robot. That's such a good idea.
It's not a robot.
Yeah, okay.
It's Delta, the big daddy from Bioshock 2.
Of course, yeah.
Which aren't robots. They're like zombified people that they're given the task of protecting an individual. And they'll literally die to protect him. Delta's a slightly special one because he's got ability to multiple guns, including like a rail gun that fires your enemy against the wall, which that'll be fun to see. Zombies being nailed to a wall next to me. So he's got that going for him. he's got the fact that he's got a drill on,
Yeah.
which he can use to clear quite a few. He's got plasmids, so he can like set fire to him. He can electrocute. He can set bees after him, and all this.
Oh no, not the bees.
Not the bees.
What are bees going to do to zombies, really?
Just annoy him.
Yeah.
Or mini brains for him to go after.
Yeah, a little distraction.
We don't know what they'll go after and what they won't, because in some zombie films, they'll go after anything that's living. So you shoot some bees at them, and I don't think the bees, I think the wasps or hornets, but either way, you shoot them at them, it's going to distract them, and they'll be like chasing the zombies, and it'll be quite cute. You could get your phone out and just take a quick video, be like, lol, zombie chasing a bee.
About, hey, Jesus, take my picture with me and these bees.
Yeah. So yeah, and he wears a big fuck off suit of armor, which is basically an old pressure diving suit. He's huge. So yeah, I think he'd probably do me quite good.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And then my final guy.
Yeah.
Now this is my sort of risky guy.
The wild card.
Yeah, my wild card. And it's my version of my Bloodborne character called Gary.
Okay, Gary to the rescue.
Gary to the rescue.
What's going on with Gary?
So basically, I have a continued. The way that I've played all the Dark Souls games is that it's been one continuous guy on one big fuck off ass journey.
Yeah.
So it also includes my Dark Souls Gary, it includes my Elden Ring Gary, Dark Souls 2 Gary, and Dark Souls 1 Gary. And there's a bit of a story behind why I chose Gary in the first place. It was purely because I was playing like these games, and I got fed up of like trying to pick some like cool sounding like like when you play Skyrim,
like real, or just trying to come up with something cool.
Like Villafon the Destroyer. I got fed up with that, and I just Gary stuck with it, and every Dark Souls or Soulsborne game that I play, including Elden Ring, I named my character Gary.
Why not?
And he's a bit of a badass. He dies a lot, but he's a bit of a badass. Now, obviously, in Dark Souls, when you die, you reset.
Yeah.
So
do the enemies.
So do the enemies, right?
Oh.
Infinite XP.
So your plan is to have Gary die, so that the zombies you've killed come back, so you can kill them again to get more XP.
Yeah.
Wow, using Gary as a sacrificial lamb. That's.
Of course he is. He kind of loves it because he loves exploration.
Oh, he's a sadomasochist, right? I get you.
He played a Soulsborne game.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Like that's kind of what they're about. He's got some big ass fucking weapons. Like they're all and
they've got reach, haven't they?
Yeah. And so the most recent version of Gary, which is Elden Ring, uses a lot of magic as well.
That'll come in handy.
That will come in handy. And I'm probably going to do the same as you. Oh, and my weapon of choice.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of gone same direction as you. Because I've gone for the Javelin from Anthem by BioWare.
Javelin. Yeah.
Javelin.
That's a good idea, actually, yeah, because that's just an Iron Man suit, isn't it?
It's just an Iron Man suit.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, man. Can I change mine?
I mean, I'll find you a spare one.
That's a great idea, that, yeah. Which Javelin have you gone for?
Well, I quite like the one with swords.
Yeah, so like the sort of, what do they call it? It's like the all-rounder, that one.
Yeah, no, that's not the all-rounder. The one that, well, yeah, I'd probably go for the all-rounder one actually. But there's my playthrough is a stealth one. I don't know why I picked the stealth one.
Oh yeah, it's like the really small, like fast one, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've gone for speedy. I don't know why I didn't just go for the all-rounder because that's usually my play style.
Yeah. So I went for like the magic one, like the one that uses like lightning and like teleports and stuff. Yeah, it wasn't. It was okay. Like you could probably get like 6 to 8 hours of fun out of that game, I reckon.
Well, I kind of want to play it, me and you, and just sort of like
maybe see how that works. Yeah,
something, and actually sort of rate it, because there are elements of that game that I actually love.
Yeah, like it's got the makings of a really good game. There's just something about the execution that just obviously it was quite of a messy launch.
I think
it's supposed to be their answer to Destiny.
Like Destiny and Fortnite and
it's really really nice.
Fortnite. I think for me there was too much focus on the online aspect.
Yeah,
with the like daily tasks and stuff that you had to do, and the sort of unlock system of it was just messy. Like I think if they would have focused it being on more of like a 1 to 4, co-op game where it's a linear story, but like a bit like Dark Souls, where if you're struggling with a certain boss, you can load in friends.
Yeah.
Like 4 people can help you with a boss, or you can like just go around grinding. Like that sort of, for me, when you're trying to have a narrative and a like online game, that is the best way to do it, in my opinion. Not have this where it's like you join lobbies, you can sort of like, I just wanted to play the story. And I was sick of going through loading screens and going through cutscenes and then going through
the home base and then launching your missions from there. It's like the Avengers game.
Exactly. Another one that tried to do this sort of like multiplayer system. Like the Lego games have perfected the sort of online multiplayer for this style of narrative-based game.
It's just like drop in, drop out prize mechanics.
Surprise mechanics, yeah. You say that, it makes it sound nicer.
Yeah.
What does that sound like? Like surprise.
Yep.
Shouted surprise first, lawyer. Exactly.
Yeah, I think
what I'm saying.
Slightly off track, but let's get back on track. Onto the next section, which is we're both gonna sort of pitch our games for the Hunger Games.
Yes. So we talked about it on the last podcast that's out at the moment, which is titled The Typecast Sheriff. A little nod to the episode. I try and name all the titles.
Yeah.
That we mentioned.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that. It was a nice touch.
In that we talked about the Hunger Games, which is a really good series. I've only read the first book. It's a really good book. I've been told by numerous people that the other 2 books are really good. There is a spin-off as well. It's a brilliant film series, and I would argue could potentially make a banging TV series.
Yeah.
Right. With the right sort of production company behind it. Someone like the guys that did Vikings or something like that. Like, I reckon
it'd need that same sort of scope, wouldn't it? And sort of expansiveness, because it's.
But you could easily get 6 seasons out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
You could do each book as 2 seasons.
Or you could even not really base it on the books. Just have it based on
you
the
could
world.
Just set it in the world of Hunger Games, which I am going to touch on that a little bit in my game design.
Me too, slightly.
Oh wait, no,
Um,
I haven't actually started the game design. So in this, we're both going to pitch our idea for our game of Hunger Games, because as far as I'm aware, there's never been one.
I don't think so. There might have been like some mobile tie-in
Yeah.
thing, maybe.
Sure. Are you aware of a game based on Hunger Games? No, she's not.
Computer says no.
What about just general battle royale games?
No,
Not
that's
necessarily.
not.
Do you mean specific to the Hunger
Yeah,
Games?
specifically Hunger Games.
Okay, as far as I'm aware now.
No, yeah, didn't think so. Well, I was kind of excited by this because I feel like I've got such a good idea for what could be a good Hunger Games game. And so basically mine would be a roguelite. And the way it would work would be, so you'd start the Hunger Games, like your first time through, and you'd be from whichever district, doesn't really matter. And you'd go through as long as you can, try and kill, the other combatants, whatever they're called, contestants, and try and win. And when you die, it goes forward a year, and then it's the next Hunger Games, and it's like, oh, and we've got new contestants and stuff. But then the cool stuff comes in when you start to win. So when you won your first Hunger Games, it again goes forward a year, and you'll be a new contestant. But this time, before you start the games, you'll have your previous winner as like the mentor that they have in the films and the books.
Okay.
And then that's how you'll then be able to start building up, say, skills that last like through different runs. But also they can build up like contacts for you in the Citadel, so that you can then get the added support while you're in the arena.
I like that.
So you've got a couple of like what is it called, like permanent like upgrades that you can have in there, as well as because it's you're going to basically be a random, like, how old is it 12 to 18?
I think so, yeah, 12 to 18.
Yeah, so you'll have a random one each time. So you could have like a 12-year-old girl. It's obviously going to be quite weak, but it'd be quite quick and stealthy. So yeah, I think you'd be able to have like create different runs each time you're going through. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. And you can play around with play styles and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's already.
And each district would give you different skill set.
I was gonna think that maybe, yeah, because they were all focused on like one district would be lumber, another district would be cattle, or so on and so forth. So they'd have different sort of transferable skills, maybe. Yeah, I like that. Thanks, researcher. Yeah.
Researcher in there.
Yeah, so that's the general structure for mine. What have you got in mind?
So I would definitely lean towards a multiplayer option with this game. Wouldn't make it the main focus.
Okay.
Would not make it the main focus.
Are you talking PvP or co-op?
PvP.
Right, okay.
But with the sort of so let me tell you more about how I would do it. So I would have a single player campaign where you, bit like you said, a roguelike, where you are basically there to help Katniss and the events of the game.
Okay.
And the only way to do that is by surviving and getting better. So you unlock more of the story the longer you survive.
Right. Yeah.
But not like a actual story. So every time you play as a different character.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. You can save the character if you like, but like you say, you've got to get to a point where you can unlock that ability.
Yeah.
Where there's like a insurance out on you. So that way, when your character dies, you come back like sort of intact.
Yeah.
You can have it as sort of explained away as being like you were pulled out of the games.
Right, yeah.
Like, you've had a sort of like a sponsor's like, no, pull him out.
Yeah.
And you've broken some rule and it's like, oh, yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Like, nobody's ever been pulled out before. Like, and you get to progress the game again, like try again at like the next Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And in between it, I know we've already said where you don't play as the main protagonist.
Oh God, here we go.
No. In between, so you could also have, even as a separate campaign, like, there's 6 books worth of games that you could do, right? So I was thinking sort of epic, almost like some of the games that we're seeing now, like Witcher and things like that, but with like a sort of Dark Souls-y mechanic where, you have got this narrative that you can follow of, playing as Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah.
Because one of the cool things that I loved about Witcher, where you played as Ciri.
This is one we should have mentioned, yeah, because I hated those sections.
Did you?
Yep.
No, I liked them, especially when you started to unlock new abilities. They weren't as fun.
I thought just for me, I was like, it didn't really need it for me. It's like Geralt was going around doing all the investigating, trying to find her, and like finding all this stuff out. But then it would just show it us anywhere, and you would play it anywhere. And it's like, well,
yeah.
Point in, I don't know.
Yeah, they did feel a bit forced. Like, I do agree with you that like it was kind of annoying in that we'd play the section with Ciri, see everything, and then the next minute we're to Geralt investigating what literally just happened, and it's like, yeah, but we've just seen this.
Or the other way around. Like he'll be investigating it, and it's like he's got most of the story from like whoever's taken her in or whatever. But then it's like, oh, but we're going to show it you anyway. It's like, well, but why did we investigate the whole thing if we were just going to see it all anyway? And yeah, she's got different abilities, but I still prefer Geralt's play style because he's more human in a way. And
so hear me out in the I know.
But yeah, go on.
So hear me out in the sort of version, the sort of like linear, not your everyday player like character. So not your like soul style character.
Yeah.
The narrative would be through Katniss Everdeen.
Okay.
And her trying to survive the Hunger Games. So you'd have this linear story where, it's broken up a little bit, the requirement isn't necessarily to kill everyone, it's to survive, to do these things. But you've got to play it almost like a Tomb Raider game, like where you've got to like improve your skills and you unlock things by like researching the woods kind of thing. That style of game still exists somewhere within that style of, having it almost like a Souls game or roguelike, and also a narrative story that you can play of Katniss Everdeen bringing down the Hunger Games. And obviously, because it's Hunger Games and the style of storytelling it is, so it's from 12 districts, two kids, a girl and a boy, sort of 12 to 18 or so. They're pit against each other in a sort of gladiator style arena.
Yeah.
Lends itself beautifully to a good multiplayer IP.
It does, yeah.
You could have different settings. You could have it where, you've got to spend not like Anthem, although maybe a little bit like Anthem because of the way that it would play. In the Anthem, after every play, you go back to a hub world.
Mm.
Could make sense.
I was going to say that would sort of make sense in this world, especially if you were doing it that sort of multiplayer way, where you could have like a death match, and meet up with, say what could it be, up to 24. So yeah, you and 23 others, I think that would be quite fun and quite nerve-wracking. Like I always find I get like heart palpitations when I'm playing like battle royale games, and I start to get like, to the final 10 or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I get so sweaty.
Well, like what I'd love about it is, there would be the options to just try and survive it out. Like one of the best ways that I find, like, because I don't really play Fortnite that much, but when we play like Fallout 76, their version of Battle Royale, what was that called? Wastelands. Well, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, their version of the Battle Royale, yeah.
Yeah, one of my things was just remaining like stealthy, which I find it easier to be stealthy against like real players than I do AI that's designed to look for me.
Mm.
Coincidence there? I think not. So I'm there like being all sneaky, and then I usually can get to like the final sort of bit, and then I'll usually die.
Yeah.
But Hunger Games could lend itself so perfectly to that.
Yeah, it does.
Business, and like you could have it where you've got to invest in a sort of like research ability to be able to tell the difference between poison berries and safe berries. And like
that could play into mine. Like say if you need some health and you pick up some berries
or delicious
and restorative, one of those. So yeah, I think I could work with both that. Yeah, I think there's so much potential there for a good Hunger Games game.
Oh god, yeah. And to be fair, I
don't think if they do a Hunger Games game, I don't think it'll be anything like either of what we've said.
No, it probably won't.
Or like a town builder, just something like completely random that doesn't fit the material at all.
And watch it be like some sort of weird arcadey game.
Yeah, or a mobile game.
Yeah. I'm being shown R2D2 as a popcorn maker. It's pretty cool. Are they sponsoring us?
Oh, I hope so.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Game, it probably wouldn't be something that either of us would really play.
Yeah, probably not. I can't see it happening, to be honest.
What studio would you attach to it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would maybe go for, and the name escapes me, but the studio that made the Hades game, because that's one of the best sort of roguelike. Oh, in fact, no, because it doesn't really suit the gameplay.
It could suit the gameplay. It could. Like, I could see Hades working on a principle of there not being like dungeon sort of crawling mechanics, but like say a bit like say Minecraft or something like that, where you dropped into this big sort of arena each time, and there's obviously we've already established there's going to be like the environmental hazards of like the mutant bugs and shit like that. So
yeah, they do that quite well in Hades.
So like it could work as a sort of open world game that they've designed that's a roguelike, because what they could do is each time you dropped in a different sort of like landscape,
different biomes
with different mob types, And as you're sort of wandering, a little bit like in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the mercenary mechanic, in that you just happen to run into them sometimes.
Yeah.
Like they might just spawn on your pathway, and your paths do cross occasionally, and it's really quite natural. Like it doesn't feel forced. I would use that kind of mechanic to have it where bosses are sort of drawn into you.
Yeah, that's cool.
The studio I would go for is From Software.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you mentioned Souls about 30 times, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And the only reason why I say it is because I love their IP. I love their sort of commitment to telling great stories in such a like hidden sort of way. I would like to see them try and do something with a bit more narrative.
Yeah.
A bit more narrative focus.
Yeah.
They did it with Sekiro, and granted, I couldn't play that game. I really, really struggled with it. I do want to replay it, so I am looking to try and get a copy at some point, or wait for it to be on.
I've got one. You can borrow mine.
But you have Xbox?
No, it's PlayStation.
Oh, brilliant!
I don't have any Xbox games, physical copy, because it's a digital Xbox.
Sold. Brilliant, because then I could play it over the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, you can borrow mine. I've probably never go back to that game.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
But that tells a bit more of a narrative.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see.
I would not much more of a narrative, I must say. There's still not much of a story there.
Compared to Bloodborne and Dark Souls.
Oh, there's more, yeah. But when you compare that to like an Uncharted or your typical single player game, there's still very little story there. Yeah,
no, that's pretty much true. That's why I'd like to see him do more narrative. Like, way more. Like a game with about 300% more narrative.
Yeah.
And I kind of want them to keep their sort of creepy gothic style. But like, I know this sounds really weird, but like a friendly version.
Yeah, because it would have to be because it's quite bright, isn't it? The sort of the look of Hunger Games, like it's quite vibrant. There's lots of foresty stuff, and like the main capital's very vibrant and stuff. So yeah, I could see what you mean there. It would have to be a little bit. Yeah, it'd have to be a little bit sort of less surreal than they used to doing as well. I think.
So it'd be more grounded. It would be probably the first time that they would handle somebody else's IP, and I feel like they would do it brilliantly. I think like they would do it justice. They have got a few more narrative pieces behind their back. Some of their names escape me, unfortunately, but there's one where you play as like a little girl wandering her sort of childhood home, as like I think she's a ghost or something,
right?
Telling her life story, and it's not combat based as far as I'm aware. So that one recently came out. So they do have the ability to be gentle.
Yeah.
But
whether they want to do that or not, I still think it's hard.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I want. I want something that's chew my knuckles, difficult. It's
fair play.
Hard.
Fair play. Yeah, I think both options would probably work. Cool. Yeah. So our final sort of pondering of the day before our closing hypothetical. You came up with this. You posited the question to me.
Yeah.
Are open world games killing the industry? And in a word, no. That's my answer. I can go into it a little bit more if you'd like me to.
No, obviously
Okay, yeah,
it
just
was.
know them.
Yeah, I saw it as a sort of headline in like on my Twitter feed.
Yeah, I see these sorts of things all the time, and they wind me up. And I'll
Yeah,
tell you exactly why. So the reason I say no is because I don't think anything could kill the industry, for one. But two, like I think the worst things about the industry at the moment are all these reports of like sexual harassment in the workplace for these different developers, like the toxic environments that they're having to work in, all the crunch and all that stuff. And then probably the worst thing, like the over monetization of certain games. You know, like you've got your free to play games that have all these added extras, which are mainly cosmetics or whatever. But yeah, that's not great. And the whole like NFT side of things that's starting to seep into some games, like that's a slippery road. But with that said, I don't think there's going to be anything that will actually kill the game industry.
No, of course not. But
I take your point in, you know, is it like I think the impact that open world games are having is that it takes a lot longer for these games to be made. They cost a lot more to be made, meaning
when they are released, a lot of the time they're a broken mess.
Well, yeah, a lot of them are, yeah. Apart from probably you could say the Ubisoft ones aren't, but that's because a lot of the time they're just sort of reskins of the last game that they did.
But I've found that a lot more people are going more to indie developments now over, you know, these big bloated AAA standards, you know, that we've had. Like the recent, especially as well at the moment, because of like how tight money is for a lot of people. You know, you've got games coming out which a lot of people are wanting to play, like Thor Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok. That when it comes out, it's reported to be about like 70 quid. I found a lot more people are going towards indie development over sort of like
AAA games.
AAA
So
games.
I could counter that by saying that of late, though, over the last sort of 3 years, that the AAA scene has slowed down a lot because it's because of the the logistics of it all. You know, everyone's working from home. It sounds like it's much easier to work in small teams while working from home. So that's why there's never been a shortage of indie games. There's always, like, every day of the week, there's a new like dozen indie games that drop on Steam or whatever. So I think that may be the reason why the indie scene looks a lot bigger at the moment, is because it's just
a lot more people accessibly working from home, learning, like working, because probably a lot of these guys have worked online for years as well. Because I know, like with some indie development, I can't remember which team it was. I think it's Devolver. They have
they're a publishing house, but yeah, they own some of the studios and stuff. Yeah,
it was one of their studios. Sorry, that I was reading through Edge, and they were saying this was way before COVID. And saying that we're an online gaming community. Like we create these games through sort of community of developers, engineers, and whatever. And they were saying that they were like a lot of them had never met because
not face to face.
Yeah, so one of them would work on the artwork, and then the sort of game designer would develop the sort of fundamentals based on what they've been given, and this sort of like ability to like send stuff over and it'd be like, right, you translate this, you translate that, so yeah, I mean, I honestly just threw it in there as a bit of a, is it? No. Like
It's an interesting point, because like when you look back at the sort of seminal open world games like GTA 3, you know, the first sort of 3D properly open world game, and how since then so many other IPs and titles and developers have thought, oh, we need to jump on that. Yeah, open world. Yeah, let's do that. And yeah, like I say, like it just, say if you were going to compare a linear title to an open world title, it'd probably take a lot less time to make the linear one, probably less money than it would for the the open world one, because you've got to have all these different systems interacting at any one time. That so it's, I don't know. I think it's more a logistical thing with the open world games. Now, the last point I want to touch on is that I used to absolutely love open world games. They were my jam for the longest time.
Sort of sandbox.
Yeah, and I still like them, but the sort of like actual size of a lot of them generally put me off. Like, I probably said this before, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I probably put 10 or 12 hours into that game, and it just, it's fine, but I just feel like the more I do, the more there is for me to do. And it seems never ending, and I'm like, not for me.
You're always
you can't use a sword. What kind of Viking can't use a sword? Stupid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. Right, and we're on to our final question, which is a closing hypothetical.
Of course. Hit me, baby.
So, imagine you live in a medieval village and you're being attacked by a dragon.
Okay.
Not just you personally. You've not got dragon insurance on your property. You've got troll insurance. It was cheaper.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if your house burns down, you're fucked. Now, there's two mysterious strangers walking into town. One of them carrying two swords, known as Geralt of Riviera, or a bit of a clumsy bastard who never speaks, called Dragonborn.
Oh, okay.
Both of them are for hire. One of them is cheaper, but not very efficient because you have no.
Which is that, might I ask?
Dragonborn.
Okay, yeah, thought so.
Or there's the very expensive Geralt, who is a professional. Now, by saying Dragonborn, I mean you have no say on that person's ability. So it could be a very good.
You don't know who's Dragonborn.
You don't know who's Dragonborn you're getting.
Right. So it could be a level 1. It could be a level 90.
But you are getting Geralt, even if he's not played by like cutscene Geralt.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, you're getting Geralt, like, just as he is. Like, because the whole thing in Witcher is that, he has these abilities. You're just annoying that you've just got to work to get them. Like,
expand on them.
Yeah. So you've got Geralt level 100. Highest level.
Well, I'm kind of finding it hard not to pick Geralt at this point. Like, you're not really.
He's really expensive.
The Dragonborn. Yeah,
he's
but
really like you're in a medieval village, right? He's asking for like 1,000 gold.
Well, it's not going to be just me paying.
No, it is just you paying.
No chance.
No.
If I live in a village,
the question is, no, fuck the rest of the village, the cheapskates, right? But this dragon is coming after your house.
Only attacking my house. It's not attacking anyone else's house.
The dragon's only attacking your house. I did say a village, but he's attacking your house specifically.
What do I do for a living? Am I a blacksmith? Am I I don't know, am I a farmer? What do I do?
You're a chicken kicker.
I'm a chicken kicker, right. Well, I don't think I'd be able to afford Geralt then.
Well, you'd have to.
I'll tell you what I'd do. Here's what I'd do. I'd invite them both round for tea. I'd be like, just ignore the dragon. Ignore the dragon. That's fine. Ignore the dragon. Just come in, I'll make you some food. You want some bread? You want some cheese? Got some wine. Take a seat, take a load off, and you can both stay in my house for the night. I'll sleep outside, and then when the dragon attacks, they'll both have to defend it because they'll be defending themselves.
I do like your thinking there.
Although that's kind of not really in the spirit of the game we're trying to play. So I think, given all the facts, I would have to go for the Dragonborn because Chicken Kicker doesn't make what it used to.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to afford Geralt.
Luckily, the Dragonborn will do it for like just 1 gold because they are thick. They don't even speak. They just look at you like.
Yeah, and every now and then he just goes, boom.
Yeah. So basically, you've just got this loud idiot that just runs into your village.
And he's
like,
like, don't worry if the dragon attacks. I'll shout at it. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I should have hired Geralt. And then he'll run off.
Then the Dragonborn won't leave you alone for like 6 months. He'll keep coming back, like pestering.
He'll keep standing in my doorway and won't let me out my house.
Yeah. Whereas Geralt, you never see him again. He runs off into the night. I'd probably try and convince the village to chip in.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we've got to convince the village to chip in, or just trick them. Just use blind trickery.
What, on the villagers?
No, well, yeah, that's probably easier. Trick the villagers.
You're gonna try and trick Geralt.
Yeah, just to trick him, just to come into my house and lay down his weary head, and then get rudely awoken by a dragon trying to kill him. And then de facto, he's going to kill the dragon. Job done. If he saves my house in the process, I'll pay him whatever I've got. It's one of them, like, it's not arranged beforehand, but he does the quest, and I'm like, oh, here, like, please, for your generosity in saving us. And
so,
if Geralt's being played by a nice person, he'll say, oh no, it's fine, you keep the money. If he's being played by you, he's going to take the money.
Oh shit, what was that? That's mine. I think Geralt's probably the better option.
Yeah, no doubt.
If I saw a Dragonborn running into my village and there was a dragon attacking my village, I'd probably leg the opposite way, just for safekeeping. Because the amount of times that I've yeeted guards off the side of a mountain because of a dragon, like pressing the wrong button, and then I'll go to that town and it's like, you're wanted for I don't like for crimes against Skyrim and her people. Like, fuck's sake. That's why I turned evil. It's just what people expected of me.
Yeah, it's just easier as well in those games.
Yeah. But yeah, that's our closing hypothetical, and I think we both agreed on Geralt.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a straightforward one. That I think I'll come up with the hypothetical for next week because I've just got a good one in my head. So I'll have a nice long think on that, but then I'll spring it on you next week.
Sweet. Look forward to it. As always, thank you for listening. And do the thing with the thing at the thing. Can you say it?
Yeah, like and subscribe, guys.
I
I did it.